Hello and welcome to Jigsaw Shed. Now for this project I decided to get my airbrush kit out again and put some stains onto the outside of a bowl. So I grabbed a piece of ash that was seasoning since about March 22 and started turning a bowl from it. Now I am rough turning it at a very low speed just to stop you getting seasickness with all the wobble of the camera, but yeah, so it was a bit of a slow process initially as I started getting it around it, but then I could slowly start increasing the speed as well. So from the onset I sort of knew the shape I was going for, a fairly simple shape, but I did want to give it a little bit of a floating effect, so you will see in a bit I add a very small foot to the bowl as well. At this point it is just working away where the bark is. I did contemplate keeping the bark in the piece, but it wasn't really going to work with what I was doing. So having turned the shape, it's now time to clean up the end and create a mortise. So at this stage I realised I was not going to be able to use spirit stains on it because there was a lot of worm damage in this piece, so I decided to use O3adhesives Thin to seal it all in and changed the direction I was going in. So in the application of the Ebonising lacquer, I did spray a bit too much on my initial coat, and there was a little bit of a pooling line that I then had to use a cloth just to wipe it all together before spraying another layer to complete the coat. So once it was coated, I just used the Chestnut knife whip to denib it and just key it a little bit as well for the paints. Now these paints I got from Aldi ages ago. I thought, hey, saw them and thought, oh, I'll pick them up. So obviously just using a bit of Joe Sonia's flow medium to just thin them down before applying them to the bowl. Now I did realise I forgot to change the camera angle at this point, but I will shortly change that so you can see more how it's applied to the bowl and for the next stage. So once I've dabbed enough paint onto there, I started using clingfilm to just dab it along and create a very interesting effect. I then just cleaned up the base there, and my idea was to apply a different color, so I'm using bronze from the metallic range to apply there. However, it wasn't applying a nice smooth complete covering, so I used the clingfilm here again to just blend the technique itself, or blend the effect. And then it's just sealing it in with acrylic gloss lacquer. Just a couple of coats of that. And then it's on to turning out the inside of the bowl and getting to the final part. So there was this little crack just below where the pith was, so I thought I'll seal it in with O3 adhesives again and then continue on to finishing off the bowl. It took a little bit of time to try and apply the sealer, so I ended up taking it off the lathe, pouring some in and then spreading it across, which worked a lot better to get that initial coating. So I then sanded it back before applying another layer of sealer just to finish it off nicely, especially because of all those punky worm-ridden areas. once the inside of the bowl was done, I took it off, flipped it around and jammed it up between the tailstock and the headstock with a couple of pieces of wood. It did take a little bit of time just to get it centered enough to turn away the mortise and clean up the foot itself. So once the base was cleaned up and sanded to 400 grit, I moved on to using my laser to engrave my logo into the base of the bowl. However, due to the punkiness in areas, the densities of the wood was different and it didn't engrave so well. I had to do a few passes and did make a mistake as well with it, which I tried to sand away, but I didn't quite get it cleared away, so the sealer showed that up a bit and it just made it a little bit not as clean and tidy as I wanted it. So some bits were a bit fainter than others, so I just used a Sharpie just to highlight those a bit more before sealing it in again with some spray sealer and then moving on to doing it by hand. And then just finishing off with a bit of microcrystalline wax. Well, thank you for joining me in Jigsaw Shed. So there's the final piece. Now this was quite worm-eaten as well, so didn't get to do the airbrushing with stains that I wanted to do, only because I had to seal that all in, so obviously the stains wouldn't have worked that well. But I had these paints from Aldi, the metallic acrylics, lying around in the workshop for ages, so it was about time I used them. So I really like how the clingfilm worked with this, gives it a really nice texture to it as well, so really nice to handle and feel within the smoothness inside the bowl as well. But yeah, really enjoyed that. And then I did want to make this a nice smooth, but the paints didn't really give a nice smooth texture on the black, so actually using the cling film on that as well just made that bronze really nice and just complements the piece really, I think. Now my laser engraving didn't go that well. I did one, then sanded it back because it was because I messed it up, and then didn't quite get the alignment right again after, so it made a bit of fuzzy. I thought I sanded it all back, but once I applied sealer you could see the previous marks. But anyway, still learning. Had to go over with the laser a few times, only because some bits would engrave really well and then the other bits wouldn't, and I think that's just to do with the hardness of the wood in places as well, with the punkiness and everything. But yeah, overall enjoyed this project. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you've not done so yet, and remember to hit that bell icon. Now, in regards to the Dremel 8240 giveaway that I did a few weeks ago, the second person that I drew in the live chat 2 weeks ago also hasn't come forward yet, so I will give them till next Tuesday. If they haven't come forward by then I will be forced to redraw that again. So I will again do it over live next Wednesday if Chris has not claimed his prize. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.